What's up, everybody? Culturedog Sam Hatch back with another video, and I've been promising to show you my James Bond book collection. And I figured I'd celebrate the release of Spectre by talking about all my James Bond books, but I really got to start with the Fleming material. So I've got a lot of the old Signet books. Some of them are pretty beat up, but of course, you got to start with Casino Royale, complete and unabridged. This was released later when most of the other books were also out from the New American Library. After Ian Fleming had passed away, but this is a great way to get into the series if you can have some access to online books, online booksellers. There's tons of copies of these out there, and they're all relatively cheap to find. So yeah, Casino Royale, Live and Let Die. I don't know, somebody owned this copy before me, so there's some writing on it, including the eye has some custom graphics there. But that's the cool thing about getting these things. This belonged to Hinderman for 10 cents. That's what I bought it for at a local library sale. But, yeah. Again, they might not always be in the best condition, but you can get them pretty cheap. Moonraker. It's actually a pretty fun book. It's got a great beginning with Bond and Drax having a big gambling showdown at the behest of M. That's pretty cool. And in a lot of the books, too, Bond, he really gets his ass kicked. And in this, he gets torn to shreds in concrete conduits in a missile silo, and there's some serious damage to his body. And the books really get across the fact that he doesn't do like non-stop missions. Like, he needs to take some time to convalesce in between, which is what the Craig films have been doing a better job at showing. Diamonds Are Forever, the original, definitely a lot different than the film, still involving diamond smuggling and whatnot, but no silly kind of Howard Hughes-esque type characters, and it does have a finale at in Vegas on a train, very like old school serial adventure type stuff. From Russia with Love, probably the first great Fleming piece. I mean, I guess Casino Royale is great too. It's pretty short, but this one's got a lot of the same vibe of the film. Of course, it's got some damage there, unfortunately. I'm still looking forward to getting some of the reissues that came out a little bit later. Some of these got damaged in my closet during a snow melt, but I don't like the actual artwork on the current batch of soft covers, so I might have to go for some older ones. I like the ones that have that kind of like pretty wild vintage look to it that came out about, 2008 or so. But Dr. No, another one where Bond just gets totally shredded, and still got a lot of the Crab Key stuff from the movie. That one's, relatively similar. Goldfinger, this was in better condition, but fortunately got its butt kicked a little. Again, not too different from the movie, but it's got more information about the cement mixers, Pussy Galore's team, and fun read. Of course, they all have the same kind of backside. I don't know why I have to keep showing you those. For Your Eyes Only, a collection of stories, 5 James Bond thrillers. This was owned by Kent Converse in Henrietta, New York. Hopefully you're doing okay out there, Kent Converse. But yeah, this one does a little bit of globe hopping, and it's the 5 secret exploits of James Bond. But From A View to a Kill, For Your Eyes Only, Quantum of Solace, Risiko, and the Hildebrand rarity. And keen observers will have noticed a nod to the Hildebrand rarity in Spectre. So I'm wondering if they're going to work that in as something more than just a safe house in the next film. Thunderball, which is very much like the film, based on the script that Fleming wrote with Jack Whittingham and Kevin McClory, that created Spectre and also created a lot of problems for Eon Productions because they had to give Kevin McClory producer credit on the film because he sued and successfully landed the film and television rights to use Spectre for the longest time. But fun read, and maybe not as vivacious as some of the other, like From Russia with Love, etc. Spy Love Me, which is notorious because when the film rights were obtained, the stipulation from Fleming was that they could not adapt this exactly as the book is. And the book is definitely a little interesting departure from the series with Vivienne Michel, a woman who is working at a motel out in America in the boonies and encounters a couple hoods and kind of gets into her whole history of dating and relationships, etc., and how it didn't really work out that well. And then James Bond is not the hero of the story. He is eventually, but he's not the main character. He shows up much later. Yeah, probably the best overall of the Fleming books on Her Majesty's Secret Service. Very, very faithful adaptation when it came out in theaters. This is a great read. And involves Blofeld trying to wreak havoc with his clinic, and also has Tracy, Bond's wife, and Marc-Ange Draco, her father, and great stuff. So more Signet stuff. You Only Live Twice. Interesting. It's a bit of a travelogue. It's got Bond just kind of chilling in Japan and running into Dr. Shatterhand, who's got a location where people go to commit suicide. So if you're going to go see The Forest in theaters soon, you'll maybe enjoy this. But this was one of the first novels I tried to read, and I just couldn't get into it right away because I was a huge fan of the Sean Connery film. And whenever I started it up, and it does have Tiger Tanaka, but it didn't have spaceships eating other spaceships, and I was like, yeah. And it took me a while to read it, but it's pretty fun stuff. It starts to get a little bit more over the top with the situations that Bond gets stuck in, and it set up a big cliffhanger, which is pretty interesting, which was carried over directly into the final Fleming novel, The Man with the Golden Gun, which really does feel kind of incomplete. Bond goes traipsing back to Jamaica and eventually runs into Scaramanga, but I don't know. It does have the brainwashing beginning there. But doesn't quite fire on all thrusters. Seems like an incomplete final work. Also, Octopussy, another collection of stories with Octopussy, The Living Daylights, and The Property of a Lady. The Property of a Lady, the story was also worked into the plot of the film Octopussy. But I saw some artwork there. There you go, Hans Oberhauser. Does that sound familiar? I think. The film Spectre took some inspiration from Octopussy. So, cool stuff. And then you have to get Thrilling Cities because it's got the 007 in New York short story. But it's just Ian Fleming giving a legit travelogue for the most part, talking about all the places he enjoys. Hong Kong, Macau, Tokyo, Honolulu, etc., etc. So, written between 1959 and 60 for the Sunday Times. Pretty cool. I like the vintage graphics there. Then I also got this interesting book by John Pearson, James Bond, the authorized biography of 007. Pretty beat up. And yes, James Bond is real. And here's all the information about that. So, ooh, I got it for 20 cents at a local library sale. The Fictional Biography from 1973. Interesting. And then I also have the Kingsley Amis Robert Markham Colonel's Son from way back in the day. I do remember reading this a long time ago, but don't really have much memory of it. 68 and 69, so yeah. Vintage stuff. And I do have this nice companion book called Ian Fleming's James Bond, Annotations and Chronologies for Ian Fleming's Bond Stories. And John Griswold put this together. It really does look like an old role-playing game kind of rule book. It's not very fancy overall in layout, but it is chock full of just killer information and chronologies and a bit of a encyclopedia on all the characters and events and places, information about golf, and it talks about all the games and everything within the books. It is really a great companion piece to understanding anything and everything about the James Bond novels, and puts in maps, etc. So it's not the most sophisticated looking release, but I mean, look, it gives a play-by-play of some card games. Super cool stuff. I think it even has some maps of interiors of buildings, and breaks it down from book to book. Really, really cool release. Highly recommend picking that up if you're a fan of the Fleming Bonds. So let's check out the books related to the Bond films next. Cheers. Hope you guys had fun with this, and we'll see you in a moment.